Dad, what's wrong with the telly?
We are scientists. We are politicians. We are the experts. We are your leaders. We rule over you. Do not question if there is a God, because we tell you there is no God. All you are is simply a freak of nature. You are an animal. You evolved by chance. Nothing about you is special. Nothing about you is real. All you are is simply a spectacle of a freak of nature. The earth is not the center of the universe. It is not even at the center of the Milky Way galaxy which we created. It is not even the center of the heliocentric model which we have presented to you. We are the scientists. We are the experts. We know what's best for you.
I know there are still so many people that continue on believing this grand lie and deception. We know that people are beginning to wake up from all of the lies we've been told from the time we were children about the earth and about space through movies, TV shows, and even so-called science experts. We're starting to find out that what we thought we knew to be right in regards to the earth and space has actually been completely wrong and a total fabrication.
Scientism is simply religious beliefs clothed in scientific terms.
They have a belief system that they are starting with, and they're doing everything they can to force science into agreement with that belief system.
If the erosion rates were true, going back millions of years, these tracks should be disappeared millions of years ago, but they're not.
So why not put these in the museums? Because they vindicate the Bible.
Don't tell me my theory is religious and yours is science. Oh no, sir, they're both religious. Evolution is a religion. So you have to believe.
Mainstream media, when it begins to push a scientific agenda, it consistently is leading people 180 degrees away from Scripture and a personal relationship with our Creator.
Science is a philosophy of discovery. Intelligent design is a philosophy of ignorance. That's all.
And so this is the next step of what we see as the strong delusion.
We despise him.
You're being indoctrinated. You have to answer the questions a certain way or you're going to get an F.
Do you get your cosmology from the Bible and what you can observe, or do you get it from these people who admit
the world is going to gather together to make war with God?
It's scientism versus God. That's what's going on.
We rule over you. Do not question if there is a God, because we tell you there is no God. All you are is simply a freak of nature. You are an animal. You evolved by chance. Nothing about you is special. Nothing about you is real.
You and I are descendants of Martians.
Okay, and that's not
crazy.
And that's not crazy. If a non-rotating flat Earth does not exist, why would you even use the phrase? Why would you even say that?
Black holes. How do you know those gravitational waves prove the collision of two black holes?
Somehow, eventually, they are able to observe phenomena.
No, they can't observe. It's too far away. It's too theoretical. How do we know what they're saying is true?
Holding to the globe Earth and the Earth revolving around the sun is easier for them to accept because it's what they've been told all their lives. For some people, it's just too much of a shock to their belief system for them to be able to receive it, even though it is the truth. Things that make it so hard to receive the truth is how much money and time and effort has been put into the deception. We look at NASA or take a trip to the Houston Space Museum, and we see all these giant rocket ships and all this technological equipment, and we think to ourselves, it must be real because we can see all of this. And many people ask the same question. Why would they do this? Why would they take such great effort to deceive the people? It usually comes down to money, power, and control. Those are the three motivators for evil to deceive. Is NASA making money? Are they gaining power, and are they taking control of your reality? The answer is yes to all three. And if everything you've been told since you were a child about the earth is a total fabrication of evil men for the sole purpose of money, power, and control, then that only leaves one reality, the Bible, and everything it states about God and about history and about the future is all true.
I loved space too. I really wanted to believe in NASA, but the evidence that NASA lied is indisputable. NASA is a criminal organization that steals $59 million per day under false pretense. Seriously, how can any intelligent person think that this is genuine footage of a spaceship in lunar orbit? NASA is a scam. In addition, any reverence I had for academia ended with wagging the moondoggy, as no major institution has ever pointed out the blatant lie. The lunar lander is a piece of junk made from curtain rods, aluminum foil, tar paper, scotch tape, some useless, space-looking abstract art sculptures, and some very poor construction. Does that really look like a spaceship to you? Look at the astronauts suspended by wires. The wires are visible throughout the Apollo missions. Look at the telltale signs of 1960s movie backdrops used throughout all of the Apollo missions. At that time, I thought the flat Earth was a government-controlled psyop to discredit moon landing debunkers, and I wanted to save my fellow truth seekers from the government psyop. Wow, was I wrong. The flat Earth arguments were well-reasoned and substantial. Globe Earth arguments were circular, specious, and vacuous. I thought the globe advocates, whose numbers far outweighed the flat earthers, would destroy the flat earthers. But instead of presenting a strong case in favor of the official globe narrative, globe supporters relied on name-calling, fraudulent videos, feeble presuppositions, straw-man arguments, conformity, and incessant appeals to authority. From the beginning, I heard the best case the globe had, and it was shockingly pathetic, and it still is. We already know that the evil cabal can get away with huge lies. This is referred to as classic conditioning. Of course, we are not dogs, but to an extent, people can also be conditioned. Humanity has been conditioned to love space and the globe. That's a fact. You have seen the globe and other space images thousands of times in your life. In addition to loving space and the globe, you have been programmed to scoff at even the mere mention of the flat Earth through unrelenting, repeated conditioning since childhood in schooling, media, and entertainment. Although the narrative is changing from Columbus to ancient Greece, I was taught in elementary school that everyone knew Columbus was going to fall off the edge. But the smart Columbus knew better than the stupid flat earthers, and Columbus proved it was a globe. Even MTV's rebellious channel always started with the U.S. government's Apollo mission to the moon. How rebellious is that? The programming has been unrelenting and everywhere. Public schooling and the grading system were instrumental in creating your inflated globe ego and that conditioned response. But here's a question for you. How do you know when you're having a conditioned Pavlovian response? A Pavlovian response isn't based on reason or intellect. Instead, it triggers a knee-jerk emotional response. It makes you upset or happy in some inexplicable manner. Hopefully, by recognizing that you are having a Pavlovian response, you can set aside the conditioning and instead use your intellect and reason to investigate the flat Earth. Here's a hilarious television experiment that took place in a medical office. All of these people are actors except for the lady. Whenever the office buzzer rings, all of the actors stand up. Yes, I added the cartoon ball. It's like Pavlov's dogs, but here the group is establishing the norm. Understandably, the unaware lady quickly follows the group. That's expected, and I doubt any of us would have acted differently, as we often look to the group for information. It's called informational conformity. But what's so fascinating about this is that this lady, after all the actors leave, then teaches others who are also unaware to do the same and creates an entirely new group of conforming, unwitting people. None of the people standing up right now are actors, and yet they are all engaging in the same nonsense based solely on group and informational conformity. Comparably, relatively few people need to be in on the globe lie. Once the narrative has been initiated, which is then reinforced every day in school, in media, and entertainment for generations, nearly everyone will unquestioningly follow the group. They control nearly all of the inputs, and the system then becomes self-policing. It doesn't matter that no one in the group knows why they believe or act in a certain way. The narrative has already been set and is followed religiously by the group in lockstep. Conformists are rewarded and promoted, and nonconformists are ridiculed and demoted. That's why calling flat earthers names is so important to this control mechanism. But the globe needed one more key ingredient, and that's the expert. The Milgram experiment is a fascinating example of the power of institutionalized conformity. In this case, the oblivious person at the electric shock generator called the teacher. Remember, this teacher is the only person who isn't an actor. A learner is placed in a different room. Each time the learner makes a mistake in his responses, the so-called teacher is instructed to give an increasing electric shock to the learner. In a way, it reminds me of the grading system. Via a microphone, the teacher can hear the fake screams when the supposed electric shock is administered to the learner. What you're watching is a modern version that obtained the same results as the original Milgram experiment. There were 30 switches on the shock generator marked from 15 volts, slight shock, to 450 volts, danger, severe shock. 450 volts is at a fatal level. On purpose, the learner gave mainly wrong answers, and for each wrong response, the oblivious teacher gave the learner an electric shock, and the teacher could hear the screaming through the microphone. If the teacher refused to administer a shock, the expert in the lab coat next to the teacher would say something like, "Please continue," or "You have no other choice but to continue." After 15 shocks or so, the learner in the other room would go silent so as to create the illusion that the learner was unconscious, or worse. But the shocks continued. What's so damn disturbing is the fact that 65% of the teachers continued to the highest level of 450 volts, which was identified as danger severe shock. All of the teachers continued to 300 volts. Despite their morals, ordinary people are likely to follow orders given by an authority figure, the expert. Remember that 65% of the participants thought they severely injured or killed the other person based only on the simple orders of the scientist with white coat. That's the power of the expert.
We are scientists. We are politicians. We are the experts. We are your leaders.
And that's why the cabal has created so many celebrity experts like Einstein, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye the Science Guy, Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, and others. The power of institutionalized conformity is evident in the following example. In this video, you can hear the child proclaim that the so-called space rocket is actually falling down, as it truly is. Just listen.
It's drifting. That's bad.
It's doing good so far.
Is it? Is that what always happens? Does it always go like that?
Yep.
It looks bad to me. It's in space. Or is it? Is that it?
Yep, I think that's it.
Rockets don't go to space. They arc and fall into the water, as you can see in numerous examples. The child gets it because he hasn't been programmed extensively enough to unquestioningly accept NASA. Instead, the adult won't allow himself to question his many years of space indoctrination, even though his eyes tell him otherwise. Here's from another video with a different child. The child keeps stating that the space shuttle rocket is going down, but the parent tries to explain it away as though the Earth is churning.
Oh no, it's going down!
Well, Mark. Peter, for Sandy, is it turning or is the Earth spinning?
A rainbow.
Sandy? It's not turning, the Earth is spinning. Sandy?
Already.
That's going straight up, it's just the Earth is turning. We're moving away from it.
Truly, the children were wiser than their parents who refused to see the obvious. The children could easily recognize that the rocket is not going into space, but the parents would not allow themselves to question it. What do your eyes tell you? Just look at this space shuttle launch. Does any person here really think that this space shuttle is in space? It's laughable. Do you understand what I mean by institutionalized conformity and how powerful it is and how we need to be wary of it? I need you to set aside your Pavlovian response, your conditioning, your group conformity, your NASA and other proclaimed expert authority figures, and just use your intellect here today, as an objective, reasonable person should. Finally, look at these actual NASA videos of space satellites. They are manifestly fake. Look at this one that was launched during a space shuttle mission. It's dangling from a wire. Don't be a moron. That video alone proves they are faking space. The Antarctic Treaty is one of the biggest proofs that they are hiding something huge about our plane from we the people. This is a fact that you can look up yourself. Independent travel is not allowed below the 60th south parallel. The Antarctic Treaty, its handbook, and its enforcement protocols, which have remained inviolate for 60 years and include signatories like the United States, North Korea, China, and the former Soviet Union, and now Russia, essentially ban any reasonable attempt to explore below the 60th south parallel under the guise of protecting the environment. They may allow limited excursions to a few tourist points, but independent travel is not allowed, and that's shocking. Think of what has happened in the last 60 years. The Antarctic Treaty survived Vietnam and all of the Cold War, despite the claim that Antarctica is rich in minerals, including coal, oil, and uranium. Were the Soviets really interested in protecting penguins and the environment? It's ludicrous. Antarctica is the one place that would prove the flat Earth, and it just so happens that independent travel isn't allowed below the 60th south parallel. And all major nations agreed to this one principle of keeping you out. Are you now starting to see that international relations aren't what we were told? Please reject the illusions, lies, and hypnosis. Break your mental shackles. Come out of the allegorical cave. I'm not embarrassed I'm a flat earther. I'm embarrassed it took me 40 years to see the truth that we live on a flat and stationary plane. Flat Earth comes with a big serving of humility. Based on experimentation, testing, and genuine reflection, we all came to realize that the Earth is flat and stationary, that outer space is fake, and that NASA lied. And that is huge. And that's enough for me to call you family.
In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. He was there in paradise with Adam and Eve. He was there with Noah in the great flood. He was there when Moses led our people out of Egypt. In the struggle for the promised land, he was always by our side. He was the light, shining in the darkness.